The former leader of Oldham Council, AROOJ SHAH, who is standing for re-election in St Mary's Ward, when she was originally ousted by Aftab Hussain, who was, by the way, the former deputy chair of the branch of the Labour Party in Oldham East and Saddleworth, and they'd failed to allow open selections. When she was ousted, she went on national television and screamed misogyny. In this election campaign, where she's campaigning to be re-elected in Glodwick, St Mary's, the mainly Pakistani ward of Glodwick, I've yet to see her stand with another woman. I've yet to see her stand even with her fellow female Labour Party candidate. When she was ousted in Chadderton South last year, not just herself, but Jim McMahon, Debbie Abrahams, you remember, stood in Parliament and shouted and screamed racism. Likewise, in the build-up to this election, the former leader, AROOJ SHAH, I've yet to see photographed with a single white person. So much for misogyny, so much for racism, but it's okay. Dale Cregan's getaway driver is still her #1 fan.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very, very good evening to everyone. It is Sunday the 16th of April. Just over 2 weeks. 2 more Sunday night transmissions until the elections, the all-out elections. For all of you who are new to me, my name is Raja Mia, and it is now just under 5 years that I have simply just rolled up my sleeves and had enough of dealings in my hometown and led a campaign that has ousted multiple Labour Party politicians, councillors, including 2 successive leaders, senior cabinet members, mayors have run away, chief executive and the entire leadership team has run away. Greater Manchester Police have been exposed as corrupt and criminal and in bed with the rape gangs, where the chief constable himself was forced to stand up in his fancy uniform and apologise. Likewise, Andy Burnham, the Greater Manchester Mayor, even with his attempt to cover up what had taken place in Oldham via his assurance review, was forced to reveal that working class white girls in our town had been groomed and gang raped under the eyes of the council. And somewhere in all of that, I've been in and out of prison cells, and I've been in court more times than I care to mention. And most recently, I am being sued by Dr. Chauhan and his team, and I will get onto that at some point very soon. It's just another plate to spin, but as I've rediscovered in myself, 1, I don't scare very easily. 2, I am more resilient than even I believed I could possibly be. And 3, most importantly, I am not alone in this journey. Far, far from it. Which brings me to, and I'll say this with a smile on my face, which brings me to some news I received, and I use the word news as loosely as possible. The malicious blogger and proven liar has now resorted to threatening me by using my 8-year-old daughter. To my Labour Party friends, Greater Manchester Police, Oldham Council, the mainstream media, all of you who listen to me, clearly, if I didn't add value to the people of my town, you wouldn't spend your Sunday nights here. I have a very, very simple message. If Neil Wilby rocks up on my door in the way he doorstepped Aftab Hussain, Councillor Aftab Hussain, based upon the last 3 years of harassment, abuse and intimidation I have faced, I will consider it a threat to life, and I will treat it accordingly. I am not, as Greater Manchester Police have found out, I am not like most ordinary people. So I would urge them to intervene, because it's clear, and they're not going to, and they haven't done in the 3 or 4 years now. I would urge them to intervene, because it's very, very clear to me that because he's not getting his way, he's getting more and more out of control. Trying to threaten me with my daughter will not stop me, any more than that muppet who put a photograph of my terminally ill mother and went into graphic detail of how he claimed she was a prostitute. I am a product of my family. And all of us, well, not one of us will ever turn away to injustice. So bring it on. But Greater Manchester Police, you have been warned. If that man turns up on my doorstep, I will consider it a threat to life. And I will defend myself and my family, particularly my daughter, accordingly. Are you listening, Chief Constable? How about you, Chief Superintendent? You've all covered for him. But this now is way beyond out of control. Let's move on to what we've got to do today. A very, very good evening to all of you. Please do like, please do share, and please, if you find value in these transmissions, consider buying me a coffee, or at the very least, supporting the crowdfunder. I've been working non-stop on these leaflets, and we'll go through some of the content right now. This is going to print. It's double-sided. There's a second side. I'll bring it up at the end of the transmission. It will be distributed in homes, every household in Royton North and Royton South. There's a QR code in the corner, and that QR code takes you straight to the Mark Stein mocking of the council leader and the playing back of the video, which you claimed you can't say it destroyed their lives. It being the children, the working class white children who were raped and trafficked by the now confirmed predominantly Pakistani rape gangs. It will go through every letterbox. It has been crowdfunded by the people of this town. I got a call on Wednesday, and the rumour being spread by my ethnic Asian brethren, the Pakistani and Bangladeshi politicians, was that I was going to run away with the £2,000 I'd raised. Where exactly am I going to run away with £2,000? Well, actually, what I've already done is committed most of it and started spending quite some of it on a credit card. So by the time it spins out, it'll spin out. And we'll get... But we've got an election to win. So this will go out. Clearly, we can't afford to have it delivered, because a delivery of that costs something like £700 or £800. So I will be needing volunteers. I'm not looking at next week. It'll be the week after. I've got another week of Ramadan left. I think Eid will be on Saturday. So I'm looking the week after, where we will hit the streets of Royton. So I am looking forward to meeting many of you in person. I know you all helped me last year. And pounding the streets, delivering these leaflets and speaking to the residents of Royton. And I will have one question. Royton, are you proud? Are you proud to have Amanda Chadderton and Clint Piffian represent you? Are you proud to have Steve Bashforth and Marie Bashforth as your elected representatives? Now, the leaflet is very, very clear. I'm not asking anyone to vote for anyone. I'm simply stating the politicians, the candidates who are supportive of a public inquiry. And in Royton North, it's the Conservative candidates who are supportive of a public inquiry. And in Royton South, it's these three independents, Maggie Hurley, Jade Hughes and Darren Rodcliffe. Also, Warren, we'll get your leaflet ready, so don't you worry about that. And a few others. Now, moving on, I just want to bring something up. Just give me 1 second. I just want to slip this camera out of the way. I forgot to do something, so I'll... Just bear with me. This is Gary Tarbuck. Gary Tarbuck, who's not joined us yet this evening, maybe he's busy elsewhere, which is allowed. By the way, Gary Tarbuck is the only independent candidate in Saddleworth South. This is his leaflet. I like how Warren offers me his expert insight. Indeed, Warren. So, he's the only independent candidate in Saddleworth South. So if you're in Saddleworth South, hey, Gary, please do vote for him. But the reason I've put his leaflet up, or his poster up, and I'm not hiding it. I've helped people. I've helped Gary. I've helped Amoy. I've helped Warren. I've helped the Royton Independents. I've helped everyone that has asked for my help. And I will continue to do so, because we're all in this together. Now, the problem I've got with this, and you can see, here's his leaflet, is Gary has been desperately trying to have his leaflet promoted on the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth site. Remember, the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth team previously put up candidates in Saddleworth South, but have withdrawn from Saddleworth South and gone to fight in Saddleworth North, where they think they can have George Hume's Labour Party seat. Now, when Gary discussed with me where to stand, and he got to this more than I did because he lives in Saddleworth North, we didn't want to interfere in the whatever the Proud of Oldham lot are calling themselves now, the Oldham Borough Independents. We didn't want to interfere with them. We didn't want to put up candidates where they were, and we wanted to leave them to it, because we aren't for splitting the vote. So we also didn't put up candidates in Saddleworth, Western Leeds, where Paul Shilton came close, has come close twice. What I found really, really difficult to accept is the news that is coming back to me is the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth team, the Oldham Borough Independents or whatever they're called, or the POAS page, Facebook page, and there's an Oldham Together Facebook page, are refusing to promote Gary Tarbuck. And do you know why they're refusing to promote Gary Tarbuck? They're refusing to promote Gary Tarbuck because he has a connection with me. So let's be clear, who has a connection with me? The Failsworth Independents have a connection with me, and the Failsworth Separatists, or whatever they'll be called, Mark Wilkinson and his team, have a connection with me. The Coldust Independents have a connection with me. The St Mary's Independents have a connection with me. The Royton and Shaw the Shaw Independents have a connection with me. In fact, I'm speaking for Mark Ince at an event tomorrow. The Royton Independents have a connection with me. The St Mary's, the St James, Amoy and her team have a connection with me. The Chadderton Independents have a connection with me. Oldham Heart and every one of their candidates have a connection with me. In fact, the entire independent movement in this town, legitimate independent movement in this town, has a connection with me. Now, I don't tell any of these people what to do. I support them. I encourage them. I mentor them. But they all have a connection with me. And indeed, Julie, what is wrong with having a connection with me? You're asking the wrong person. I think you need to ask Sarah Shilton, who's the president or the lead chairperson of the Oldham Borough Independents, what her problem with me is. Apparently, her problem is I cost her husband the seat, Paul Shilton, in Saddleworth, Western Leeds. Well, I'm afraid I didn't campaign in Saddleworth, Western Leeds, and I didn't stand in Saddleworth, Western Leeds, but I had been clear last year and the year before and this year as well that if I was supporting anyone in Saddleworth, Western Leeds, it would be Paul Shilton because I believe him to be a decent man. So the Oldham Borough Independents, through the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth page and the Oldham Together page, will not be promoting any one of you because you're all connected to me. And no, Dennis, it's not about the following. I'm not interested. I'll be honest with you. I'm not the, I've seen it. I know we've had this, that. There's so many thousands or here, there. No. I'm not that because I genuinely believe a small group of dedicated people can make much more of a difference than a huge mass of people who can't be mobilized. And more so, I think what I do is very, very different. I campaign, I educate, I advocate, I represent, I lead, I mentor, I support. There are many, many more things I do. And because I am the person I have always been, I urge people in Saddleworth North to vote for the Oldham Borough Independents, as I urge people in Saddleworth Western Leeds to vote for Paul Shilton and his Oldham Borough Independent team there as well. Because I march to the beat of a very, very different drum. Let's move on. You will recall that Sorry, I'm just trying to find... There you go. You will recall how Amanda Chatterton has said, had the audacity to claim, we can't say it destroyed lives, and she claimed she'd got to that position by speaking to victims and others. She won't say how many victims who were in the report she'd spoken with, but she did use the word in a plural sense, so it was more than one. And in other, and who the others were. Now, having an understanding of the Data Protection Act, of how these reports are published, I find it difficult to accept that Amanda Chatterton would have been aware of the names of these individuals, because it would have been a data breach of the victims, of the survivors, unless they're self-identified. And I don't think, apart from one of them, any of the others self-identified with the council and worked with the council. But she doesn't say how many. I want you to listen to this. Remember, this is a woman who said he can't say it's destroyed their lives, that is being gang raped and trafficked over years. I want you to listen to this.
Somebody knows where you live and your daily routine.
Just start at the beginning.
If somebody knows where you live and your daily routine, they're going to find you. But it quickly moved on to being sold onto men every single day. So I'd be being sold maybe 2 or 3 times a night. Taken into the only thing I can describe as a rape house, which was set up for the purpose of young girls being sold to men. The reason why I kept going back was they were threatening me with burning my house down, which was a real threat in Telford because that had actually happened previously. And they would say to me they would rape my mum and rape my sisters. And they knew all about my family. There was just no escape at all. I was gang raped just after I turned 16, and that was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me. Sorry.
You don't need to apologise. No way.
And after that, I tried to commit suicide, and people would say to me, "Was that a cry for help?" And I was saying no. I genuinely wanted to die because I thought that was the only way. The way out. I was in cars that were stopped and searched by the police with older men, and was never questioned why I was in there or who I was. My name was never asked. And I just think if they'd been more proactive at points like that, things could have changed earlier. I was also going to the doctor in the youth sexual health clinic a couple of times a week for at least about 3 years, getting the morning after pill.
Wow. How many times do you think you took the morning after pill in 3 years?
I couldn't even estimate how many times.
What, dozens? Hundreds? You were going twice a week for it?
Twice a week.
Over 3 years?
Yeah.
And no one there raised the alarm?
Nope. Nothing.
But did they ask you why you kept coming back?
No. Nobody asked any questions, and I had 2 abortions. If somebody knows where you live and you're...
Okay, that's looped now there. It's a survivor from Telford, interviewed on the BBC. I'm beyond angry, because anger is just an emotion, yeah? I'm beyond angry. Telford got a public judge-led inquiry, independent inquiry, and the judge's statement at the time, when he spoke very eloquently, was that a proper inquiry in the way they've had in Telford was an opportunity for these survivors to tell their stories because that is a fundamental step in our justice process in this country. The stories of what happened, in the words of the victims, the survivors, need to be told, and that has been denied in Oldham by a man called Gerard Jones, the chief executive of the Children's Services, who in Burnham's report is confirmed as preventing at least one victim from accessing Malcolm Newsom and Gary Ridgway. Burnham's investigators, who are themselves complicit, by the way. Councillor Clint Piffian of Royton North's Labour Party claims a public inquiry would be a waste of money. The Asian councillors, a number of them in that room, at that first public meeting, were sliding down their chairs because Shabir Ahmed, who had been shouting and screaming about, saying not only was he employed by Oldham Council, he was a senior member of the Labour Party whose actions had been covered up, and he had access through his role in Oldham Council to children, and it was ridiculed and laughed at. That was not only confirmed, but there are councillors in that chamber now who sat and drank tea with him. Why are politicians in our town blocking a public inquiry when they should be shouting and screaming for one? Well, I'll tell you why I think. It's because it goes back to James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon, the MP for Oldham West, Royton and Oldham West, and his role in the cover-up. This goes to the highest level in the Labour Party. And if this gets out here, I don't think McMahon will be the only one whose career will be over. And he did, Gary. Gerard Jones sat on that front table smirking at us, laughing at us, mocking at us, because he and all of them know that we can't do anything to them. Well, we can. It's called an election, Amanda Chadderton. It's called an election. Councillor Piffian, Councillors Bashforth. And in Royton, there is no cartel-controlled block vote. There is no postal vote fraud of an epidemic scale as seen elsewhere in the town. And we can and we will force a reckoning. If you're finding value in this transmission, please like, please share. There's 173 of you watching now. Please like, please share, and I just need to do something with my... There you go. Please like, please share, and if you're able to, please consider buying me a coffee. Louise sent me some of these through. I've been drinking them. I need another one, so give me a second. I'll just go and get another drink, and we'll carry on with the transmission. I'm in Royton tomorrow. I'm in Shaw tomorrow evening with Mark Hints at 6:30. Please, if you want to join us, just drop Mark a message, and I'm sure he'll share the details. They have done remarkable work in Shaw. Mark, this is the 3rd year he'll be standing. My understanding is they've got candidates not just in Shaw, but they've got a candidate in Crompton, and they've also got 13 or 14 candidates, a clean slate, a full slate for the parish council. Remarkable. Well done, Shaw. Well done, Crompton. Absolutely staggered. I mean, I'm genuinely pleased that so many people have stepped forward, and the hard work of Mark Hinz and his team. That's what dedication does. Now, I disagree with Mark all the time. For starters, he's a bloody City fan. I think he's a Republican. My mum would probably kill me if I was a Republican. She's already asked me if I'm going and watching the King's coronation with her. No. Well done, Mark. And we will get you over the line. And you will have parish councillors. And Shaw will be the better for it. Because decent people just said, I've had enough. Vote them out, and we need to be part of the change. And thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Gary, and thank you to everyone else who are going to be joining me in Royton to deliver these leaflets. And to my friends in Greater Manchester Police, particularly Detective Sergeant Christopher Dean. I told you last year, and I'll tell you again this year, stay out of my way. This is a democracy, and in a democracy, we are allowed to lawfully campaign. He still has my computers, by the way, and my iPads, including my daughter's iPad and my mobile phone. It's the best part of 2 years, and he's ignoring my solicitor's emails. He has to give back my equipment because the court papers, I've got one court trial left, but he can't keep hold of my equipment because the evidence, the bundle says they've finished with it, and they found nothing on any of my devices. What were you looking for? Porn? They found absolutely nothing on any of my devices. I think I know what they were looking for on my devices. I think what they were looking for is evidence of who sent me the video of AROOJ Shah's car being blown up. Because I don't think they wanted that to get out. To this day, Greater Manchester Police have not issued a statement on that video and its contents and and how they followed it up. Why is that? AROOJ Shah did get a medal or some award from her favourite chief constable. You'd be surprised. I used Apple equipment. I mean, the laptops, the computers, the one I've got in front of me is from 2015, Lynn. My friends laugh at me. I take care of my equipment. I do. All my stuff, I've always took care of it because I can't afford it. So I've always, kept them clean and looked after things. So they last me a long time. But I'd like my laptops back. I'd like my iPads back, and I'd most definitely like my phone back, and my journal, my notepads. Shame on you, Greater Manchester Police. Shame on you. Which brings me to my next. So, you will have seen the video, and we're not going to talk about the incident per se. We're not going to talk about Mohammed Jamal or what we saw. We're going to talk about the police's response, I think, and also the person who videoed whatever it was they videoed. Now, I never shared the video. First of all, I never shared the video. So this Uber taxi driver, it made the national news. I read the story in the Daily Mail, I think. I read the story in. It was the Daily Mail, I think, who put the video up, or the Manchester Evening News. So That's where I saw it, and I saw MPs and senior politicians comment on it. And Greater Manchester Police Oldham Central earlier in the week issued this very, very strange statement, to which I queried it, and then when I went back and looked, the statement had disappeared. So let's read the statement first. The press release, a statement, yeah. A man has been charged following the circulation of a video online. Mohammed Jamal, brackets his date of birth, 10th of the 3rd, 1986, which makes him, I think, 37, of Shaw, Oldham, has been charged with soliciting. Now, soliciting is acquiring sex, paying for sex, acquiring sex from a prostitute or making someone into a prostitute. Yeah, so there's the other side. So if there's soliciting on one side, there's usually the charge of someone who's the prostitute on the other. Yeah, it stands for a reason, doesn't it? He has been bailed ahead of an appearance at Manchester and Salford Magistrate Court on Thursday the 4th of May 2023. No issue with the first two paragraphs there whatsoever. This charge relates to an alleged incident. Again, I completely understand why they use the word alleged. Because, you know, a man is innocent, or a woman, a person, is innocent before proven guilty. And that's the reason why I'm still here today. Although you remember they never issued any statements about me at the time. They just allowed the Oldham Times to claim I'd been arrested as a child sex offender. And I'd begged them to issue a statement like this, clarifying exactly what I'd been charged for, and they point blank refused. Didn't you, Detective Sergeant Christopher Dean? This charge relates to an alleged incident involving an adult female in a taxi on Thames Street, Rochdale, in the early hours of Sunday the 9th of April. So what they're making reference to, keen to make reference to, is it's an adult female. They don't give the date of birth or her age. They just make reference to as an adult. And in the United Kingdom, so we're clear, an adult female is someone, or an adult male female, an adult is someone over the age of 18. We understand the interest this case will have generated. Okay, let's just pause halfway through that sentence. If you understand the interest this case will have generated, that interest has been generated because of people's concerns that it was a child. I think the person filming made reference to it as being a child. So I'm happy you understand the interest this case will have generated, because you understand why. But it is absolutely imperative that the suspect has a fair trial. Agreed. So members of the public must refrain from engaging in conversations online. The comical thing there was, they must refrain from engaging conversations online. They posted this on Facebook, Greater Manchester, Oldham Central. That's Superintendent Christopher Bowen's team, and left the comments open for people to let loose. At least until proceedings have concluded. The next bit they're asking for is previously circulated video should be removed. Well, it's on the Daily Mail. Now, I don't know the legality of what they're saying. I suspect there is no legal basis on why previously circulated videos should be removed. And I'd welcome Greater Manchester Police to clarify the legal basis of that. Or is it just uncomfortable? And secondly, asking people from refraining from conversations online. I think the reason why they're saying that is because they're yet to charge anyone for the disabled young girl. But my entire life I've seen on the internet, I've seen on the news stories all the time. People have been arrested. They've been charged. And there's commentary and ongoing commentary. And no one's saying there's guilty or innocent or getting involved in any of that because we all assume, we all comfortable with the law. That's not my issue here. My issue here is I don't trust Greater Manchester Police based upon both personal experience and that they've been in accelerated special measures until very recently, and they're proven rape gang protectors. And the stories I read, 80 people, 80 police officers or something, that they're owning up to, are involved in sexual assault or sexual harassment or rape or whatever. The Manchester Evening News reported something. There's stories out there. You go and have a look at it. You'll see what the specifics are. But it makes me uncomfortable because it talks, for me, it's an inference of these are cultural failings, institutional failings. And then this press release then disappears without an explanation from their Facebook page. Now, if you recall, some of you will recall, there are a number of times many of us on this journey have reported crimes to the police. Greater Manchester Police, Mark Wilkinson's done it, Jane's done it, I've done it, loads of us have done it. Sometimes to do with a malicious blogger, but other times to do with politicians. Sean Fielding. Remember when Sean Fielding abused his position, maliciously communicated with our employers, with people's employers, and tried to have them sacked, using his official position as leader of Oldham Council? The police took statements from the victims, messed about for 3 months, and then said there's nothing to do here, nothing to see here, no crime has been committed. 4 or 5 victims gave statements, all with reference to Sean Fielding. The police never went and spoke with Sean Fielding. So the person who's, they alleged, respectable, decent people, with clear evidence, submitted reports of crime, harassment, malicious communication to Greater Manchester Police, and Greater Manchester Police did not follow the evidence because they did not go and interview Sean Fielding. I'm reading this statement here, and I have a very simple question of Greater Manchester Police, which in no way interferes with this case or the trial of this man having a fair trial or not. No way interferes with that. My question is really, really simple. How did you determine the woman was an adult female? Did you speak to her? Or did someone else tell you she was an adult female? And if I could push it, my follow-up question would be, is she being treated as a victim or as a prostitute? On the basis that Mohammed Jamal has been charged with soliciting. Is she being treated as a victim or as a potential criminal? Has she been charged? Has she been arrested? Do you even know who she is? And I ask Mark Hinz, who is standing for councillor and is here in Shaw. This man is from Shaw. To drop an email to Greater Manchester Police as a politician in the town and seek simple clarification, because people are concerned. And there is an absence of trust in Greater Manchester Police, quite rightly. There is an absence of trust in Greater Manchester Police. I want to know. I'm sure you want to know. Because that's why, well, one of the reasons why the interest in this case was generated. Was a fear that the young woman was a child. Now the police are now telling us it's an adult female. They're not telling us her age, but they're telling us it's an adult female. And I think it's only fair that we are told how they identified it was an adult female. I never circulated the video. What I have been told, again, is that because I shared the press release from the police that they posted online, I've been reported by the malicious blogger to the police because I've apparently interfered in a trial. I know I'm laughing, but this obsession is only going to end up in a dangerous place because I've seen it elsewhere in the world. And this man now resorting to trying to weaponize my daughter. How does that make you feel, by the way? Labour Party politicians, council officers who tune into this. You'll recall I've maintained from the outset that people's personal lives, I wouldn't even AROOJ Shah's, even though she twisted it, I refuse to share details. How do you feel to be allied with an individual like this? You can shout and scream and call me the racist and far-right activist. But I think, in the end, it is our actions that define us. Which makes me want to move on to Failsworth Independence and Brian Hoban and Mark Wilkinson and all of that. I think what happened this week was really, really disappointing. For me, it was really, really disappointing. Heartbreaking. I think Brian Hoban and anyone now who aligns with Hoban and his brand of politics, they've lost all trust across the borough. Forget Failsworth, and I'm sure they'll get over the line, and I want them to get over the line. But they've lost all trust and credibility with other politicians and want to be councillors elsewhere. I don't think there's any way back to where it was, but I think there's always a way back to somewhere. And I get that, Sue. I get that. I get that. I think many people like you will feel that way. I think Lucia was a lovely young woman, by the way, Sue. I don't think she would have been involved in any of this. I don't even know if Mr. Hindle, Councillor Hindle, would have been involved in any of this. But I think what Mark and his team have done has been really positive. I spoke with Mark earlier in the week. I said, Roger, we've got an election to win. What's happened's happened. We're not interested in having a fight or an argument with these people. They've done what they've done, and the people of Failsworth will decide. We've worked very, very hard in Failsworth West, and we'll let the people of Failsworth decide. And I'm sure the people of Failsworth West will decide. I'm not doing anything in Hollywood, I'm afraid. Hollywood. The Oldham Borough Independents are standing candidates. So that's one reason we didn't want to get involved in a pissing contest. So in the same way we coordinated amongst ourselves not to get, split the vote there. We'd not got involved in Hollywood. My honest opinion of Hollywood is it's key. If we are to wrestle control from Oldham Council, those 6 seats, Hollywood is key. And I would vote Conservative. If first base is removing Labour or keeping hold of seats that Labour are targeting, I would vote for the party that can most effectively beat Labour or keep hold of the seats. So in Royton North, I'm advocating we vote for the Conservatives. In St James, I'm advocating we vote for Beth Sharp, her brother, and also Amoy as the independent. And in Hollywood, I'm advocating we vote for the Conservatives, the 3 Conservative candidates. I think I vote for the Oldham Borough Independents. I think she got 100 votes or 150 votes or last time. And I get your point. Look, I'll put it back up. Nothing happening yet. Well, they stood in the by-election in November. What have they done since? What have they done since? I'm not going to set people up to fail. So I'll talk about the election now. I speak with people on all sides of the political spectrum. I think that's clear. I speak with the independents. I speak with the Labour Party. I speak with the Lib Dems. I speak with the Conservatives. Yep, all of them. This is what I am being told. Some of it I find difficult to accept. Some of it I take with a pinch of salt. And some of it I think there's value in it. The Conservatives are expected to lose 1,000 council seats across the country. Conservative High Command nationally have even confirmed they're getting ready for taking a hammering. We know we've lost Robert Barnes in Chadderton South. Warren standing there, and hopefully we can get Warren over the line as one of the 3. Pause for a second. Yeah. So, if the Conservatives are going to take a hammering across the country, Oldham has always booked. Oldham in recent times since we came along has booked the trend. The Conservatives have gained or held in areas where we didn't expect they ever would. So Robert Barnes has gone. Hopefully we can get Warren Bates over the line now. We've got that's my nephew telling me his mum, my cousin, wants her margarine tubs back. She's been feeding me. So, Royton North, we've got to vote for. If you're in Royton North, you've got to vote for Lewis Quigg. You've got to vote for Dave Arnott. Whether you like them or not, if you want rid of Labour, you've got to vote for those 2. You've got a third vote. You can decide if you want to vote for the ADF guy Paul Goldrig, I've spoken to Paul a few times. I think he's a decent bloke. Don't agree with his ADF. I think Paul's a decent bloke. As in, I don't agree with another national party coming in and muddying the waters, but I think Paul's a decent bloke. Or you can vote for Dave Arnott's wife who's standing. Now, you know my position on husband, wife, father, son, daughter, sort of. I don't like it. Told you before I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it, but it is what it is. At least vote for Dave and Lewis if you're in Royton North. If you're in St James, again, I don't like it, but there's Beth Sharp and her brother. I think what this shows is that they're struggling for candidates. You know, when you're bringing in your wives or your brothers and your sisters, your mums and your dads, you're struggling for candidates. I think that's what it shows. You're struggling for credible candidates. Obvious why with the Conservatives in Oldham. It's not really ever been a Conservative town. But I'd vote for Beth. I'd vote for her brother. And I'd most definitely urge you to vote for Amoy. Now, what I'd tried to do, and failed miserably, but I tried, was to encourage Beth Sharp, who will need the independent support to get over the line. There simply isn't 900 Conservative voters in St James. She will need independent support. What I wanted to do was to form some form of, loose coalition where the message on the doorstep would be, we also support Amoy. If you can't bring yourselves to put 3 crosses against 3 Conservative candidates, we'd ask you to put one of your crosses next to Amoy. And likewise for Amoy, who was prepared to do this, was to say, to the independents, look, first base is to get Labour out. That you've got 3 votes this time. I want one of them, but please vote 2 towards Beth Sharp and her brother. They do live in the area. Leanne Munro doesn't. Josh Charters doesn't. And the story with Amoy is a fascinating one. Yes, Beth refused. I don't know if refuse is the right word. But she wasn't for playing. Now, the thing you've got to understand with Amoy, and why I'm even more proud to support her, is that Amoy was offered the Labour Party ticket a couple of years ago. And if she stood as the Labour Party candidate in St James, she would have won straight away. She refused. She'd seen what Labour were doing, had been doing, and wanted no part of it. So she refused a guaranteed get into Oldham Council. I think she's a decent woman. In fact, I'm not the only one who thinks she's a decent woman. Debbie Abrahams thinks she's a decent woman. I'll play you a video in a second. So that's St James and Royton North. What the Conservatives will lose in Saddleworth South, hopefully they'll lose one to Gary, but it makes no difference in terms of Labour. And in Saddleworth North, where the Labour Party will lose its seat, it won't be to the Conservatives, it will be to the Liberal Democrats. The Conservatives won't take that third seat. In fact, the Liberal Democrats might take more than one in Saddleworth North. Labour have failed to put up a full slate of candidates. It's remarkable. 60 seats up. Labour have failed. This is a party that controls this town, have failed to put up candidates in all 60 seats. Labour have failed. And the Labour candidates are disproportionately ethnic minority. The party of the working class, and particularly the white working class, is no longer applicable to Labour. They're importing the likes of Leanne Munro and Josh Charters in from Delft, Hannah Roberts from Delft. So all these champagne socialists they're importing in to stand in the inner wards. Why is Hannah Roberts not standing in Delft instead of Hollingwood? Same with Josh. Leanne. Legitimate questions, wouldn't you say? They can't field enough candidates for their own backyards, but they're importing them into the inner working areas where they are manipulating the working classes. I think Garth Harkness will get over the line. Then we've got Failsworth West, where the mayor's already run away. Elaine, Gary. That will go to Mark's team. Alan will get that. They'll have a clean sweep there. So the Labour, and say we get Warren over the line. And I'm hopeful, Warren, we get you over the line. Labour's majority from 36 is down to 34. They're down to 34 seats rather than 36. Where are the other, and that's hoping that the Conservatives hold the 3 seats they've got. Where are the 4 other seats going to come from? I'll be honest with you. I think Warren's an outside chance, so that might go to 35. I think Amoy's an outside chance, so it might stay at 35, just as I think Gary's an outside chance by the way up there. So let's be conservative and say, okay, 35. Where are those 5 seats going to come from? Royton South has to be, doesn't it? Well, some of my... the people who want to share information with me, shall we say, are keen to tell me that we're not going to win in Royton South. At best, we'll get 1 over the line. At best, we'll take Marie Bashforth out the line. I shrugged my shoulders. I said, well, you've never seen us campaign. And if you have seen us campaign, you don't quite understand what we do. I'm hopeful we can get 2, 3 of them over the line. I think we've got 3 very, very decent candidates. Maggie, Jade and Darren. Very, very decent. Brilliant team. But say we get all 3 of them over the line, we still need 2 or 3 more somewhere else. Where else in this town are we going to be able to take Labour Party councillors out? The new Chadderton North Ward, perhaps the Conservatives on a good day would pick one up because of the ward boundary changes and stuff. But nationally, they're taking a hiding. Not sure. It's got to be Hollingwood. It's got to be Hollingwood where the boundary changes took place. And in the by-election, they were close. I think they were under 160, 70, 80 seats. Votes. That's a swing of 40 votes. If the Oldham Borough Independents had bloody done what they should have done and campaigned with the Conservatives. Never mind. So this election will be determined by what the Conservatives can hold. The Independents winning where we think they'll win. Sometimes they'll take from Labour, sometimes they won't. But the Conservatives holding 3 of their seats, at least 3 of their seats, and 6 seats coming 5 or 6 seats coming from Hollingwood and Royton South. That's where this election is going to be won and lost. That's not to say hard work doesn't have to be done in Failsworth West. It will. It's not to say hard work doesn't have to be done in Calder's and in St Mary's to keep the Azad in and to keep Aftab in, who both I have issues with, by the way, but I'm a pragmatist. First base has got to be defeating Labour. Give me 1 second. I want to play something for you.
For a long, long time, does so much in Gurkha. And also Leanne, who was elected last year, doing a fabulous job, the amount of resources that she's got already into the community. So hopefully you will. And then Josh is a new one. These are candidates. So Angie and Leanne already councillors. Josh is trying to stand as well. They're all local candidates, all right? So please do think about it. I know Moy will win, and I know my Moy, and I like a Moy and so on, but she's not likely to win. We need to make sure this government starts to sit up and take notice of people in terms of like yours, fed up with them and what they've been doing over the last few years. Does Lee feel the same? That's what I know. You're struggling, love. Does Lee feel the same?
That is your MP, Debbie Abrahams, talking down Amoy, wanting to send the government a message to vote for Labour. Well, actually, I want to send Oldham Council a message, and these are Oldham Council elections, so she's been disingenuous as to what a difference and where local democracy works is at the council, the town hall, not Parliament. And she's promoting Leanne, Angela Cosgrove, Leanne Munro, Angela Cosgrove, and Josh Charters. Hold that name. Hold that name. So I'm just looking at the time. I've been at this just over an hour now. Please, if you find value in these transmissions, like, share. There's 232 of you on. I've had 2 people buy me coffees. So if you can. So I'm just reading a text message from my sister. Mother's got 2 appointments at Christie's this week, so that's me booked up for a couple of mornings this week. If you do find value, please do consider buying me a coffee, keeping these transmissions going. My subscriptions have gone down. I don't hold anything against people. I put all the content out for free, and if you find value, support me. If you don't find value, we'll carry on till the elections and we'll take stock then. But you've got to, at the very least, like these transmissions if you're watching them. Otherwise, what's the point? There's over 200 of you, and I've got 50 likes so far, so it does make a difference. So if you can, please do. I will just leave you for some music for a minute, and I will come back. But you saw that. That is Debbie Abrahams knocking on doors in Durka, basically saying, I'm always nice, but she's got no chance. Vote for Leanne, vote for Angela Cosgrove, and vote for a man called Josh Charters. I hope you're watching, Josh, because I'm going to just do something. Just do something that I can. And I'm very grateful, Gary Lees, that you do support me and you do subscribe to me. I just wish that the thousands who take value from my work did likewise. Where's the DJ gone? Oh, never mind. Sorry, I had to just let my mother know that I would be taking her to hospital for her appointments this week. It is just me here, so, you know, it is just me. I have run a transmission once or twice with my daughter in the bedroom, but I'm never comfortable because I think she'll just wander in. So, no, it is just me here this evening. Let me show you what I want to do. And as for Debbie Abrahams, of course, I think what's important with Debbie Abrahams was Debbie Abrahams today. Really moving to meet international peace walker Karalzada Kazrat Rai, who walked from Manchester to London to raise concerns about Kashmir. In the photograph on the end you will see, well, first of all, it's all Asian people with her, but on the end you'll see Akil Salamat, Councillor Akil Salamat, who is a benefit fraudster. That's right, isn't it, Akil? You'd got done for a housing benefit fraud or something, wasn't it? A housing benefit, claiming housing benefit when you weren't supposed to. I heard some sharp things in the background. No, it was just me loading up the dishwasher. And you did see the earlier complaint, didn't you, Mark, from my nephew? His my cousin, his mum wants her margarine tubs back, so I'm going to have to go and drop them off tomorrow, otherwise they'll be hell to pay. Indeed. Getting sued for, you know, millions or whatever from Dr. Chowan, and then I've got margarine tubs. I know which one I'm more worried about. It's the margarine tubs. So, of course, the contradiction here with our MP Debbie Abrahams is, and I hope someone does come forward to stand against her in the way I'm standing against James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon in Oldham West and Royton. She has no interest. You can see here. Where's her interest? Where's her interest? Where's her commitment for justice for the working class white girls from Durka, Shulver, Moorside? Where? Shaw? Saddleworth even, and I know there are victims in Saddleworth. Where's her any commitment towards justice for them? It's always Kashmir this, Kashmir that. It's not right. I don't think this is right at all, Debbie. Has she met with you yet, Gary, by the way? Has she got back to meet with you? Let's get this lined up the proper way so I can see it. This leaflet went out a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely nothing to do with me. It involved Aftab Hussein and Isa Kosa in St. Mary's. Apparently Amanda Chariton had reported it as a hate crime. The priorities were fix the potholes, maintain footpaths. You can see this isn't the sort of leaflet I'd produce. Mental health problems on the rise. Council tax to rise under Labour. In the middle it says LGBT being taught to children in schools. And I'll read it. It's not acceptable to brainwash our children at such a young age. Parents should be given the option if they want their children to be taught and the option to opt out. Now I am on record for being an equality and human rights campaigner and an advocate of gay rights. I don't think that's any secret. In fact, I've been targeted by AROOJ Shah's childhood friend, who was convicted for having me followed home, where he posted he'd seen me get involved in some gay antics. I've been described as a gay Christian convert by associates of AROOJ SHAH. So despite the pressure put towards me, my commitment to stand alongside people who are different from me or different from you, I am an equality and human rights advocate. I always have been, I always will be. So he put this out. Nothing to do with me. I think I know what he was trying to articulate, but it's not for me to say. I'll get into detail too much, but as a parent, I think there's a difference between educating people about relationships and the nature of people's relationships, so like single parents such as myself, split parents, all of that. Parents who are gay, parents who are straight, parents who are in interracial marriages, interreligious marriages, so on and so on. Parents who have children to different, the siblings are half brothers, half sisters. So the stuff about how families are made up. And I'm all for that. I have a daughter still in primary school, so I'm all for that. What I struggle with is the introduction of sex education to primary school children, including instructional materials on how to perform sex. And I've seen that. Someone sent me something recently about how to perform some sex act in a book in a primary school. I found that offensive. Maybe I'm a prude, I don't know. I found that offensive. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. From a different generation. I'm clearly from a different generation. So I can differentiate between relationship education and sex education. I think that's the first thing I'm saying. And then, of course, the malicious blogger took to one of his articles, obsessed clearly, wanting to know why I've not spoken out against this leaflet. You're a muppet, aren't you, lad? This is the list of candidates. Aftab Hussain, Maria Ahmed, Asma Begum, Mohammed Hussain, Husna Khatun, Isa Kosa, Ghazala Parveen Rana, Zoe Elizabeth Rawlinson, Ali Umar Akil Salamat, AROOJ SHAH. There's 3 Labour Party candidates on there. My name isn't on there in St Mary's. You know what normally happens in an election campaign? If one candidate says something that's unacceptable, it's for the other candidates to speak out, particularly when one of them is the chair of the National Constitutional Committee of the Labour Party. No, Gary, that's not accurate at all. So I'm going to take that off, but that's not accurate at all. That's the sort of stuff people put about get me in trouble. That's not accurate at all, Gary Lee, so I'm not having that. What ordinarily happens is for the opposition councillors, candidates, to speak out. Why aren't they speaking out? Why is AROOJ SHAH not speaking out in defense of the LGBT community? Why is Akil Salamat not speaking out on behalf of the LGBT community. Remember, Amanda Chaddison is on record to say, you know, she's the first openly gay council leader of the town, but she's also on record to say gender can be self-identified. That means you can decide if you're a man or if you're a woman. Which, by the way, I think is also the Labour Party position. So Amanda Chaddison's position isn't unique in that. So therefore, it is AROOJ Shah's position, it's Akil Salamat's position, it's Mohan Ali's position, it's Abdul Jabbar's position, it's Naz Islam's position, it's Fida Hussein's position, it's Dr. Chauhan's position, and so on and so on. The teaching of LGBT education in schools on the national curriculum. And the discourse about gender and the identification of gender. So this is Josh Charters, remember? And this is all from the public domain, by the way. So you've got Josh Charters, is that with Debbie Abrahams there, with the white hat and the white jacket there? Campaigner and digital communicator, he works for Bardock Limited. Bardock is that organisation because I raised concerns of the way in which contracts were handed out to them and declarations made regarding Dr. Chauhan. I'm currently being sued, but here we have Bardock, who has, on record, can't sue me for the truth. Well, they are trying to sue me for the truth, but you can carry on trying. Here we have Josh Charters, Bardock Limited, employed by Bardock as the campaigner and digital communicator. I have no idea what campaigner and digital communicator is, but he's employed by Bardock, which received hundreds of £1,000s from Oldham Council. I'm not saying anything has gone on here, I'm just showing who he's employed by. Here's Josh Charters' his Facebook profile, and you can see what looks like his partner. Meg Birchall. Councillor, by the way, but in her bio there you can see FUCK transphobia. I think it's very inappropriate to use words like that when you're a councillor. And you can see it says, in a relationship with Josh Charters. Oldham's first trans councillor privileged to represent Delft. So Meg Birchall, who's in a relationship with Josh Charters, who is standing to be candidate in St. James, they're in a relationship. And she, so I get this right, she is Oldham's first trans councillor. And my apologies if I got this wrong, but I'm trying my best. So that means she is biologically a man, or was biologically a man, and is now identifying as a woman. And she's representing Labour. Yes? I've got that right so far. Unelected, unopposed. I've got that right so far. I am a lifelong equality and human rights campaigner. I think it's only right that I support both Josh and Meg and my former colleagues in the Labour Party. This is groundbreaking. I mean, it made the newspaper. We should support them. We should support the Labour Party. We should support Mohan Ali, Naz Islam, AROOJ Shah, Fida Hussein. We should support all of them. Dr. Zahid Chowan and promote this story with pictures of them and put them through letterboxes across the town of how the Labour Party has the first trans councillor. And isn't it great when this is the Labour Party policy, and pictures of all of these Muslim councillors supporting them. And how we support that they're supporting them. Because that's what I'm going to do. You want to goad me? You're not going to win with me on this. My issue, if I have an issue with any of this, is that I'm making sure that my daughter goes into a toilet where the only other females in there are biologically female. And if someone, I have an issue, I'll be honest with you, I have an issue with competition and people who are biologically born male competing in competitions that were against women who are biologically born women, not who self-identify as women, but biologically born women. And I have a third issue with those who commit crimes should be treated as criminals based upon the gender that they identified as at the time the crime was committed. But I have no issue with trans people. And I, as a equality and human rights champion, will have a leaflet with this designed and how we are supportive of AROOJ SHAH, how we're supportive of Abdul Jabbar and the Labour Party in their support of the trans community. And no, this is not me mocking, this is me serious. And I'm going to post it through the Muslim households of Oldham. The Labour Party proudly support the trans community, and we support them that they do. What are you going to call me then? What are you going to call me then? My name is Raja Amir. I was awarded an MBE at the age of 29, 30, I think. By then I already had a decorated career in anti-racism, equality and human rights. The subsequent 15 years, 20 years of my life, I trained people, educated people, supported people in our fight to keep our country safe from extremists, terrorists, Al-Qaeda and all of that sort of stuff. I am a committed equality and human rights advocate, and I will stand alongside members of my trans community in the same way I will stand alongside members of our gay community, black community, Muslim community, so on, so on, so on. Because that's what equality and human rights is. You can't pick which one you support and which one you ignore. So come on, who's with me? AROOJ, are you with me? How about you, Abdul Jabbar? I'll hand out the leaflets outside the mosques. How about that? Come on, bring it on. Come on, Wilby, bring it on. You see, the difference is, I don't pander to anyone. And I don't think, oh, this is going to cost me votes, so I better not do this, or this is going to cost me support, because I have been consistent from the moment every one of you met me. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and I will stand alongside the side of the oppressed. Come on, Josh, Meg, give us a call. I'll go out handing leaflets alongside you of how you are the first trans councillor in Oldham for the Labour Party, how your partner is standing to be a Labour Party councillor in St James, and I'm sure your Muslim voters will not turn their backs on you. Are you laughing, Ian? here is my Chadderton Central Labour Party team. I'm sure these gentlemen and Elaine are committed to equality and human rights in the same way the Labour Party hierarchy is. Will be supportive of me promoting the Labour Party position on trans rights. And of course, kids have rights, John. I think I've tried to make it clear, mate. I'm very uncomfortable, John, with the over-sexualization of children. I'm also very, very uncomfortable with attempting to impose or have children question their sexual identity when they're too young to. And also, I know, just being a parent, children aren't stupid. They know what's going on in the world around them. And I'm all right with it. I just don't want them to be sexually educated when they're in infant school or primary school. But I'm sure my Labour Party colleagues, this is the St Mary's team. Josh is there, front and centre, between Leanne Munro. Leanne, come on, Leanne. St James, tell me. I'll come and hang out with you. Drop some leaflets. Look at my Muslim brethren there. There's Mr. Mushtaq on the end. Amanda Chadderton. Come on, let's go and dish out some leaflets of how the Labour Party supports trans rights and the LGBT community. Come on. Aftab backtracked on his position on leading the Pride March. I laughed because I don't think he quite knew what the Pride March was until someone told him. But hey, I will lead the Pride March. If anyone from Pride in Oldham wants to get in touch with me, I will lead the Pride March. I am going to design a leaflet with all of the Muslim Labour Party candidates' pictures, the Labour Party's trans position, how the Labour Party has a candidate who promotes his relationship and a trans councillor, and what a great thing I think it is. How brilliant it is for Oldham that we're so progressive. Warren. I don't think we use that term anymore. You might use it, Warren, but I don't think it's used in the... words come and go out of fashion, I think, Warren. I don't think that word is any more politically the right one to use, I'm afraid. You might want to use it, and maybe someone who knows better than me can explain why you can't use it, but my understanding is that word is not used anymore. Will cause mayhem in Glodwick. Why? The Labour Party has elected a trans candidate councillor. It's on the front page, or it's on the page of the Oldham Times. Yeah. Oldham's first trans councillor privileged to represent Delph. Well, I'm privileged to have her. And in a world of hatred and discrimination and, prejudice, the Labour Party having lots of problems, I think this is great. Don't you, AROOJ? Don't you, Abdul Jabbar? This is great news for the Labour Party, isn't it? Come on, Josh. Stand by your woman. Standing in St. James, Josh, look. You stood alongside Debbie Abrahams, who's on record saying, you know, a nice young man like you is standing for them. Look, here you are. With some of my Muslim brethren. Is that Ross Birch there? Squeezed between you and Leanne Munro? I think it's Ross Birch. Aye, indeed, Gary. So admirable. How diverse the Labour Party are. Wonderful. Indeed. I could have come and said, I'm going to go out and do a whole host of leaflets raising concerns about sexual identification, the introduction of trans into primary schools, the LGBT, pushing the sexual narrative rather than the relationship narrative, the concerns of conservative parents have, particularly from a Muslim community. But no. I'm not going to do that because I can't do that. It goes against my values. The Labour Party are the party of the trans. It's a proud moment. And I'm going to use the photographs of the Labour Party councillors. I think it's meant to be an iftar tomorrow. I don't know if I'll get there once I finish with you, Mark. But if I can get to that iftar tomorrow after I finish with Mark and his team, I'll ask Naz, who's at these events, and Mohan. Abdul Jabbar's at these events. Ruji Sultan's at these events. Abdul Malik I've seen at these events is my nephew. I'll go up to him and ask him. Share with them how proud I am of them to have supported the trans community the way they have. And if they'd like to supply me a photograph to use, or whether I can just pick one off the internet in the leaflets I send out. Josh Charters has got other issues, though, that I think the people of St. James should be aware of, because his relationship isn't an issue for me. And I'm being serious here. His relationship, of course, isn't an issue for me. How to consenting adults. Hey. Live and let live. But Joshua Charters does have an issue. And this is his issue. So I just need to bring it up. There is something called the Labour Free Market Movement. You can type in Labour Campaign for Free Movement. Let me just find it on the internet on my iPad so I can share it with you. The Labour Campaign for Free Movement is a network of Labour members and supporters campaigning to defend and extend free movement and migrants' rights. In 2019, we successfully mobilised to pass a strong migrant solidarity motion at Labour Party conference, probably the most radical step towards a socialist migration policy our party has ever taken. Stop building borders. So they want, basically, yeah, you can see what it is. Movement without borders, I think, is fundamentally what they want. Free movement of people. So whoever can go wherever. Signatory number 3368 is Joshua Charters, Secretary, Oldham and Saddleworth, Young Labour, Oldham West and Royton, CLP. So when Joshua Charters knocks on your door, or Debbie Abrahams or Leanne Munro knock on your door and you're a St James's candidate, I think the legitimate question you have to ask is why they support open borders, the free movement of people. Because I know, speaking to people from all communities in Oldham, particularly in a town that's poverty pimped and attracts poverty, it's unsustainable, unmanageable. Well, these people believe in open borders. These people believe in open borders. Do the people of St. James want more asylum seekers? More refugees? Sholver? Durka? I go through Durka and I see how the community has been completely transformed in parts without the infrastructure. You're setting people up to fail. You're setting communities up into a position where they will become antagonised towards the other because your integration strategy is non-existent. People in Haversham with the Roma community, free borders. How about you guys in Chadderton South? Free borders? It shouldn't surprise anyone that Amanda Chadderton and her Labour Party's election campaign is based around this leaflet. These leaflets, Britain deserves better. What about Oldham deserving better, Amanda Chadderton? They want to fight on a national issue, which these local elections have no bearing on. With Labour, you will get economic stability. What do you mean you will get economic stability? You've been in charge of this town for the best part of 40 years. What sort of economic stability have you offered, Amanda Chadderton? But the first one is the best one. We will stand up for local people. You've blocked motions calling for a public inquiry into the cover-up of the gang rape of our town's children. And you have the audacity to say Labour will stand up for local people. You hypocrite. The only local people you'll stand up for is the Muslim bloc vote. Let's be honest now here. That's the only people you seem to be standing up for. You're not standing up for the white working class girls who were groomed and gang raped, were you? We'll protect our public services and deliver for local people. Have they been delivering for you in Royton? Don't trash Oldham. Has that been delivering for you? Only Labour can beat the Conservatives. The Conservatives don't want you to vote. The Conservatives don't want you to vote. And Andy Burnham, of course, has to join in. Can the Conservatives honestly hold their hands up and say they made no calculation about securing a political advantage when deciding to introduce voter ID. I think Andy Burnham is being extremely disingenuous there. Because Andy Burnham was a member of the Labour Party that decided to get rid of the checks and balances and the requirements of postal vote. And now we know postal vote fraud is at horrific levels in communities across this country, regardless of what they say, because one of the main judges had something to say about it. One of the main judges had something to say about it. Let me see if I can find it. So just give me 1 second. Bear with me. I'm just going to find you this video. It was hidden. It's all been hidden. Whilst I'm looking, if you find value in these transmissions, please like, please share, please consider buying me a coffee. Here we go. Found it. Type his name in. So there's a judge. There's a QC, Casey, I suppose now. Specialist in electoral fraud. But they've kind of like hidden him. His interviews. They've hidden his interviews. They've hidden his interviews on the BBC. If you type his name on the BBC and electoral fraud, you'll see he did a famous interview on the Today programme, and that's gone. But I managed to find an obscure video where they've interviewed him on Australian TV, some random Australian TV channel. Let me play it for you.
To balance the sound.
Okay.
Mr. Murray, your comment about a banana republic went around the world. It was news here in Australia. What was that in relation to?
Well, when I had uncovered the fraud in Birmingham, I was struck by a statement by the British government saying that fraud wasn't happening and all the safeguards were working well. And I denounced this as being complacent, saying that I had heard evidence of fraud that would disgrace a banana republic. And I felt that, if anything, that was an understatement, considering the levels of fraud that had been uncovered in Birmingham. An election where someone may be elected to an office where half the votes cast in his favour are fraudulent is clearly a procedure which most banana republics would envy.
And you were sitting as a High Court judge?
I was sitting as an election commissioner, which is a judge appointed for the trial of that disputed election petition alone. An election commissioner has the powers of a High Court judge and is sitting as a judge of the High Court of England.
Can we avoid fraud in relation to postal votes? And we have also pre-polls in Australia. Can fraud be eliminated in relation to that?
In my judgment, formed on an examination of these cases over the last 5 years, I do not think a system of postal voting on demand can be operated in any way which will eliminate the risk of serious and massive fraud. I think it simply cannot be done.
We're told in Australia by the politicians that it's very important to make voting easy. What do you think of that proposition?
The first is, I don't think making it easy actually increases the willingness of people to vote. In England, the objective of postal voting on demand was to make things easier in the hopes that more people would vote. In fact, the numbers voting at elections, we of course have voluntary voting, dropped dramatically between 1997, which is the last in effect all personal voting election, and 2001, which was the first election with postal votes on demand. The drop was as high as 12%, from 71 to 59% drop in voting. So those low figures have continued in Britain, as a result of which it cannot possibly be said that postal voting on demand increases turnout.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Now we go.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
Okay, so there you go. That's the main judge who oversaw all the corruption allegations, all those court cases, and you can see what his position is on postal voting, and he's making it. Says electoral fraud would disgrace a banana republic. And it's a good place to round things up, because the postal votes, as Warren did remind us all earlier on, the postal vote deadline is Tuesday. And my information is cartels are already doing what the cartels do. And the postal vote horse trading is in full effect. Full effect. Thank you very, very much to the 300 or so people, just under 300 people who've joined me this evening. And thank you very much to the one person who bought me some coffees during the transmission. Thank you very, very much. I hope you have a very good evening. I'm going back now to continue working on some leaflets, and a few more hours this evening, but thank you very, very much for your time. I'm always humbled by how many people actually decide to join in with me on a Sunday night and give up your time. I will be at Mark's event tomorrow, Mark Ince's event in Shaw, so if anyone wants to join me about 6:30. And I think the Royton Independents have an event on Wednesday night as well, so hopefully those of you who live in Royton South in particular, please go and meet the team. They are very, very brave individuals to come forward and take on the might and machinery of the Labour Party. And to my Muslim brothers and sisters in the Labour Party, please do send me your photographs. And of course, our non-Muslim brothers and sisters in the Labour Party. I'm an inclusive sort of guy. All my my former family members in the Labour Party, please do send me an up-to-date photograph if you would like, because I am very, very much looking forward to promoting all of you on your position on trans and your support for the LGBT community, and how proud I am of all of you. A very, very good evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.